This is the new Lotus 12-inch dual bevel sliding miter saw with model number LTC-M12CX. Right away, I'm going to tell you that this kind of miter saw is definitely not for a guy like me. Number one, I'm just a weekend DIYer. Number two, I don't have a ton of space. And number three, most of my projects are relatively small builds. What we're looking at right here is a big burly machine suited for serious woodworkers far more capable than me. I tend to lean more towards machines that are more friendly to me, and what I mean by this is I tend to go for power tools with smaller blades since I mostly work with plywood or softwoods and my projects tend to be smaller in nature. Having said this, however, it isn't to say that I don't have any experience with big burly miter saws, since I have, at least on one occasion, had the chance to use a miter saw that reminds me of this guy. Let's jump right into it and start with the three things that I don't like about this unit. Number one, the power jerks. When you have a massive machine like this, I think it goes without saying that you can expect a ton of power, and this miter saw is no exception. It's got a ton of power on it. Managing that sense of power from a user experience is also important. Most higher-end brands tend to do this by including a soft start to the trigger. A soft start allows for the tool to throttle up to its maximum power. This unit doesn't bother with that. When you pull the trigger and turn this thing on, it makes itself known to you how much power it has under the hood and makes no apologies for it either. You immediately feel the power. In fact, the power is so apparent that when you pull the trigger, the momentum makes your arm jerk up. It caught me by surprise the first time I tried it. It scared me, if I'm being totally honest. It doesn't help that I'm already intimidated by bigger blades, and there's a 12-inch blade spinning 2.5 inches from my hand. The only thing between my hand and that spinning blade is some plastic, so yes, it scared me quite a bit. It still does. I think a soft start would have done wonders in calming those fears, but there's actually a reason why it doesn't have it. I'll get to that. Number two, dust collection. I'm just going to say it. The dust collection on this thing is a joke. Now, to be fair, most miter saws are notoriously bad at dust collection anyway, and that's why you see so many builds on YouTube featuring dust enclosures and shrouds for miter saws. So if you're the type of guy who values dust collection and you already have a dust enclosure or were planning to build one, this probably doesn't matter. But as it is, this unit barely makes an effort in this department. You can consider this dust bag cosmetic because I doubt it will catch anything. Sawdust usually travels from the workpiece to this general area, and the only sawdust that comes out here is often whatever the blade carries up. So most of the sawdust ends up back in this area, which is why higher end models have a shroud or vac vent here. But again, if you're one of those guys who really care about dust collection, then you probably already have or plan to build an enclosure, so you should be fine. Finally, the third thing I'm not a big fan about on this miter saw is the laser. Now, I tend to not trust lasers on any power tool anyway. At the most, I refer to them as a general guide, but I have always had this habit of tracing my mark with the actual blade before I make the cut. I don't know many people who put a lot of faith on power tool lasers, but if you were to make that mistake on this saw, you will find that the laser can be misleading. Here's what I mean. You'll see here that I've made a mark on this piece to show my cut line. When I have the saw in this position, the laser appears to be accurate, but as soon as I move it, it goes off the mark. So those are the three things I don't like. If none of those three things are deal breakers for you, then you get quite a bit of value from this unit. First, the sidebars. There aren't a lot of miter saws out there that offer the side guide bars. I love this design because it eliminates the headache of not being able to situate a miter saw against the wall without wasting the space behind it. Next, dual bevel capability. Many miter saws only bevel one way. I'm not sure I understand why that is, and you can work with a single bevel miter saw, but dual beveling is just more convenient. Another great feature are positive stops for common angles. So you have stops preset on this unit for 45, 30, 22.5, and other common angles. Again, I always appreciate this type of convenience. And then there's the big blade. A 12-inch blade ensures that if you ever have to cut a piece of wood that was 14 inches wide and 5.5 inches deep, this machine can do it. Now, I don't know how many of you out there have to cut slabs that thick. I have certainly never had to, but hey, if you do, this guy is for you. I already mentioned that I tend to go for machines with smaller blades, but that's a preference thing. And for most people, future-proofing your workshop with a machine that does more than what you need today is actually a good thing. And finally, as far as power, it certainly feels like it's got a lot of it, as I highlighted earlier in how much the power jerk of this thing scares the shit out of me. Which brings me to the best part of why, if you like everything you've heard about this saw so far, the trade-off for a soft start is worth it. I'm talking about the price. The lowest I've seen this unit listed online brand new is 14,000 pesos, or about $280. That is a far cry from the $35,000 or $700 price tag that comes from higher end models. And as is the case with almost anything in life, a price cut comes with some trade-offs. In my opinion, Lotus does a really good job of providing significant value at a significantly lower price point than I am accustomed to for the features of their saw. If you have a workshop for this machine, there is certainly a lot of value here.